Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming the System. It's just Matt with me today and we're going to be chatting all things video game music, especially during live events. And I want to talk about this largely because I have just been to a world premiere concert of BAFTA-winning / nominated video game music, which was absolutely amazing. And it was in the South Bank Centre in London. It featured lots of different scores from lots of different games, and it was in part composed and completely conducted by Austin Wintory, who is one of my favourite video game composers. There was also an offer, a VIP event, which I heartily seized the chance of getting to meet some of the composers after the event, and I can tell you more about that a little later on. But I guess I'll start by asking you, Matt, if you could, to recap your experiences of watching live renditions of video game music yourself.
So I think the only ones that even if I have done other ones, this one blew everything else out of my mind and replaced it all with the more detail with this one. I went to see Elden Ring in concert in the Albert Hall. The Albert Hall. Have you ever been to the Albert Hall?
I have not, but one day I'd love to go, definitely.
It's the absolute best venue ever. It's got all the acoustics of just the most phenomenal just music venues designed for big, grand, orchestral music. And I went there, I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe, and got there. It's right on the edge of the massive park. It's just awesome. Then you go in. I love sitting. Every time I've gone there, I sit in the top rows. Whereas, in most venues, they're just not very good seats, and they're the really cheap ones. But you get this incredible. There are no. It's a big ring, so there are no bad seats really, and you just get to take in so much more of the spectacle from there. And took some awesome photos of the premiere. And then there's a massive projector screen behind the orchestra playing. It's basically a movie of the game, just clips from going through the entire thing. And it's just off the charts awesomeness of from every angle, because we'll have to go around in a circle as we talk about our favourite bits of it. Sure. But one of my favourite bits is having a massive orchestra. How big was the orchestra?
It was quite large. Yeah, I'd say it was the BBC Concert Orchestra, so it was proper professional people, obviously. But yeah, there was obviously all the sections of the orchestra. There was a voices section as well, because a lot of the scores contained choral voice work, which was incredible. And a large screen, just like you said, which showed clips of the games set to the music as well. Yeah.
It's awesome. And I think there must have been between 50 and 100 people in this orchestra, just filling that awesome stage. And I love when the best things are. It's so hard to even describe them because they hit that transcendent thing. But part of it is not every song or track or bit of music can be scaled up to an orchestra and have it add significantly more to it. So there are like plenty of game soundtracks that aren't, if you were to play them with an orchestra, the orchestra would be a bit wasted on it, because when you've got 100 people with 100 different instruments, that's 100 tiny flavors of every note that happens, and they're not all playing the same notes. They're playing these harmonies and different timings, and it's just the more people you have, the more instruments, the more rich and varied the sound that you're going to be getting out of it can be. And to have Elden Ring, so they've got to have access to the orchestra for one thing, and then you need to have written music that is worthy of the orchestra, that it's awesome on its own, because it is, just listening to it through while you're playing the game, just trying through, going, oh, this is awesome. It feels like you've got an orchestra there. And then to take that and actually have an actual orchestra playing it, and it be as epic as it is in the game, but then they're turning it up to 11. It's not like it was 5 in the game and they can turn it up to a 7 with an orchestra. It's a 9, 10 out of 10 in-game as part of the world. And then you come out of your room or your sitting room where the TV is, where you've been playing it all, with your speakers or your headphones. Then you go to London, you go to the Albert Hall, you go and sit up in the rafters. All these things are adding to the experience. And then the music starts. And then it feels like every part is a force multiplier. It's like you've got an amulet of being up in the rafters, a belt buckle of it being in London, and just going on. Each part after that, and then it gets to the music, and you go, da, 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 da. I'm there going, yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? I think obviously you go there and you're like, okay, London is going to be a special occasion. It's dressed nicely, and obviously it's in a very big posh venue. We got a little bit lost trying to navigate the building. I don't know if you've ever been to the South Bank Centre.
I have, yeah. It's like the theatrical centre of London with lots of different stages.
It's made of many floors and contains the lift-vet things. It was part of the experience, definitely. It was glass, and as it raised up the levels, we were going to level 4, and it was like, well... It would thing like over the levels. And then when you go down, it would go down in the octaves as well. I hope that was a decent impression. Apologies to everyone's ears for that terrible singing. But yes, we eventually found our way to our seats, and we had a sort of side box, not a box, but it was essentially a level with the boxes on the side. But then we were below the boxes. So we had a slightly obscured view of one corner of the orchestra. But generally, we had a really nice view of all the audience as well. So you could see people reacting. And importantly for us, for this particular concert, we could spot the composers in the audience as well. And as we sat down, we took a look over directly in front to the rows of seats directly in front of us. So say we were on the side and the rows of seats go. Don't know if that makes any sense. But basically we were at an angle to the seats. And I thought there was this man and woman who were slightly older, and the man was relatively eccentrically dressed and quite, I don't know how to describe him, but basically he looked like you wouldn't expect someone to look who was coming to a video game concert. And I thought, that's odd. But no, it takes all sorts. People come from everywhere. And then a few minutes later, a security man came by and talked to him with something in his ear. And I thought, I wonder if that's one of the composers. And then it dawned on me, it's in fact Jesper Good, who was sat just across from us. And I twigged him luckily just before his pieces were played, partway through the concert. And after each of the pieces were played, if the composer was in the house, the spotlight shone down on them in the audience, they got off and had a wave, and then they sat back down again. And so, yeah, when it was Jesper's turn, he stood up right in front of us. But back to your point initially about the feeling when you arrive and when you sit down and when it really hits you as being something that was far more impactful than just listening in-game or on Spotify, for example, is when you hear the orchestra tuning up. And I don't know if you remember the PlayStation 3 startup noise. I was like, oh my God, it's just like the PlayStation 3 startup noise. It's the same in every orchestra, But it was really clear how loud the orchestra was, just sitting, hearing them tune up like that. And I was like, oh, this is going to be really loud, but also really good at the same time. And you know what we kicked off with, Matt? We kicked off with Baldur's Gate 3. And the company hosting the concert, or at least helping to facilitate the concert, had filmed these backing videos to go with the music, which involved some of the singers and some of the instrumentalists, I don't know if that's the right term, playing some instruments for particular tracks. And for Baldur's Gate 3, they had, I forget her name, I'm very sorry, but the lady that sings, she's like the vocalist. I think this Down by the River could be different, but it's basically all the sounds, but not the deep ones, the high ones. You know the bits, don't you? Basically, she sings the song that happens when you battle Raphael. Do you remember that one?
I don't think I fought. Oh yeah,
I don't think we have in our playthrough, but that song was featured, and so were the singer and the actor who plays Raphael, who I was very excited to meet, Andrew Wincott, because he's also a voice from The Archers, the BBC Radio 4 radio play. But he featured quite heavily in those videos. They were all very camp. They were in each other's faces. They looked like they were going to kiss at one point, but they were just like giving each other evils. And it was all very dramatic and exciting. And it was all quite stylized as well. There was lots of lighting, loads of lighting around the hall as well. And then, of course, they stood up at the end and waved to everybody. I think they'd filmed it, obviously, in advance. But that was very cool. But yeah, where do I start? The number of scores we listened to was quite fantastic. We had a whole range of different things, some of which I'd actually not heard before. I think the one that I was least familiar with was the score to the game Virginia, which is a small indie game where you play as an FBI agent and you're solving a mystery. And it's animated in style, but not like a paper animation, more of a 3D animation. And that composer was Lyndon Holland, who I'd never heard of before. But we did actually meet his wife in the VIP gathering afterwards. She casually dropped it in halfway through the conversation, which was quite an interesting surprise, because I just assumed that she was another concert goer, which she probably was. She'd been to the concert. Yeah. But in terms of the impact, like how the music feels, when you're listening to it live, you can almost feel it like in your body. It's really hard to explain, but it just hits differently and it's really emotional. I cried quite a lot, as I said I would. I knew I would. And I was especially pleased when they played the score from Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. It was a medley of different parts. And then I realised Jess Curry, the composer, was in the building. And she was just back behind Jesper Kid. So we got to see her. We didn't get a chance to speak to her because she wasn't sticking around. But it was lovely to see her because her music is some of the most incredible video game music I think I've ever heard. You've played Everyone's Gone to Rapture, haven't you? Yeah.
It was a long time ago, though. You know, before I think I wasn't quite as... It's me, so I can be pejorative about myself. Too slow, not being able to appreciate slower things when I wanted to go at really high speed through things. And if it's slow, then that means it's boring, which means it's bad. When it absolutely isn't the case, it's much, much harder to make a really good slow game.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was incredibly emotional hearing that. They made the London voices at the back. that I noted there was one particular one who I could hear distinctly from the rest when they were singing in a group during Baldur's Gate 3, the first set of music. And I thought, oh, I'll keep my eyes on that one. She's got something really good. And of course, she sang the main parts for all of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which was incredibly, I don't know what the tone, is it falsetto's the highest? I don't know.
Super hot.
Music people, tell us in the comments. But she was an incredible singer. She was hitting all the notes. And it just was immediate chills. It was incredible. And then you had the added bonus, of course, of seeing Austin Wintory conduct the orchestra as well, which was very special. When he walked out, he had his hands clasped like this in front of him, giving off very humble vibes. I think he definitely gave off those vibes when we met him as well. And in between each piece, he would turn and chat to the audience briefly. Because he does say he is one to talk, which is true, because we did overrun. But he would take the time to talk about the composer or the impact of the game as well, which was really cool because it's just putting video game music up on a pedestal for everybody and saying this is worth listening to. Did you know this about this music or this about this composer? And I think it's really cool. Yeah, it was split into two halves, so we had a little bit of an interval as well. But yeah, we had some really good scores. We had Helldivers 2, which was incredible, by Wilbert Roger II. We had Fallout 4 by Inonzer. We had Cuphead by Chris. I forget his surname, but I have his signature. I'm sorry, Chris. We also had Tomb Raider Legend, which won a BAFTA back in the early days of the video game BAFTAs. But Austin pointed out the composer for Tomb Raider Legend, Charles Foman, if I pronounced that incorrectly. He's Belgian, I think. He actually pioneered a library of orchestral sounds, like digital library, for lots of composers to make use of, and now it's become one of the most popular libraries in use today, which was really fascinating to learn about. Thank you, Austin, for sharing. We also had, obviously, Assassin's Creed, which was great. It was a medley, and it did show clips from 2 and 3 as well, even though it was one that had won the BAFTA. We had Hitman Contracts, that won a BAFTA as well. That was really interesting, that one. It was basically footage of Hitman supposedly being brought back to life, I presume. I've not played the game. I don't know. I couldn't tell what we were watching. If you've not played the game, a lot of the clips they played were probably very confusing.
Very strange.
Yes, definitely. We had Uncharted, an Uncharted medley. That was brilliant. That was Greg Edmondson, the composer for that. Obviously, one of the most standout and most anticipated moments for me was when Journey came on. And that was beautiful. I cried at that because I was like, this is peak. The moment I get to see Austin conducting his own music, seeing Journey on the screen, it was really great. And what did we have? Trying to think.
So were these games that won BAFTAs or the music?
The music, the category of video game music. So these were BAFTA award-winning or nominated scores. The one clear absent thing in my book, which it probably means they couldn't get the rights or some other legal thing or whatever, was obviously God of War and God of War Ragnarok. I was hoping there would be a surprise, but I think the main surprise was that the composers were in amongst the audience themselves. They were on the edge of the main seats, but they were there, which I think was what the surprise hinted at by the organisers, or probably was. So I was slightly disappointed because I figured I'd built it up in my head. I was like, Bear McCreary's going to come on stage, he's going to play his hurdy-gurdy. That did not happen. It did not happen. But the dream was there. Yeah. But yeah. How does that compare to, like, your experience of Elden Ring?
It's interesting because that is part of the problem with concerts when it's a game like Elden Ring, when it's one game, one concert. You know that they're going to play absolutely everything and all the absolute bangers from it. They're not going to miss out any absolute bangers from it. But then if you go to, say, like a normal concert, I went to a concert just before Christmas for a band called Imminence, a Swedish heavy metal band, and they're just fucking off the charts. It's a transcendent 11 out of 10 ridiculous unbelievableness. And I'd been obsessed with them for the entire year. And then they announced that they were doing their latest album is called The Black. And they've been going for 10 years, but this was their breakthrough one that has catapulted them up a tier. And they've got their vocalist he does singing and screaming and plays the violin at the same time.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
That's incredible.
And his voice, his singing I've watched live video after live video of them for the entire year. And his voice is just unbelievable every time. He has never had a weak performance. And so just building up to me coming and seeing it. And then their entire concert, there was only one song they didn't play that I was disappointed by. But every other song, just absolute 11 out of 10. 11 out of 10. 11 out of 10. And they start, so normally they're a five-man band. But when they do a couple of studio recordings, they've got a string quartet that they bring in to do it as well. And for these final run of shows, they brought the string quartet with them.
Wow. Yeah.
So now they've got the five of them. They've got a pianist who does backing vocals. Mm-hmm. They've got a female backing vocalist.
Yeah.
They've got these 4 string quartets, and the lead guitarist does the backup screams as well. So it's that exact same thing of, it's awesome when you're listening to it recorded with the 5 of them. Then you have it recorded, the 5 of them, then performing it live in studio. Then you add the pianist, and then the vocals, then the other vocals, then the string quartet, and just each one, it adds exponentially to it. And then on top of that, they can do these incredible acoustic versions of their songs as well. So taking these incredibly heavy, screamy songs and being able to turn them into acoustic songs. And he did it's unbelievable. He goes from doing the first 2/3 of the show, maybe 3/4 of the show, the hardest, heaviest stuff, unbelievable, just smashing it, his vocals, because the vocals are the thing that I pay attention to the most, because they're the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Because you can't just tune your voice, or if you snap a string and change the strings. It's a mind, body, soul thing. And him delivering that over, and then they sat down and did 5 acoustic versions of their songs. So him going from being able to do that heaviest stuff, the last show of a 2-year touring cycle, and then going from that heaviness to the most beautiful, clean singing, and then did that, and then did the last quarter of the show back into that heavy mode. And that's like the perfect concert going experience for me, is when you see something and you go, I want it to be this particular thing, this particular way. And those are the 2 ways that Elden Ring and Imminence did that, which is just perfection. But then the problem with ensemble shows, like a lot of certainly some gaming concerts are, is you're going, it's going to be a celebration of game music. And you go, but I'd rather have a show that was just this game.
Yeah.
Just that game. And yeah, like that was part of the reason why I didn't
So keen. Yeah.
fancy it. And there was also
fair point. But yeah. God.
There was a concert, a tour planned, a gaming concert tour, and it got cancelled after the first few shows.
Really?
It had booked out it was playing in the O2 arena, I think, big arenas. And I was really, because I'd been spoiled by Elden Ring, I knew what was possible. This one, it said, I was paying very close attention to the wording, because it didn't say a live orchestra concert experience of the PlayStation games. It was saying a cinematic music experience with live musicians.
Yeah.
And that means that it's not an orchestra. And if it's not an orchestra, then what's the point if it's not an orchestra? It needs to all come from the instruments. One thing I loved so much about Elden Ring, and it being in that acoustic venue, is that when no one is playing an instrument, it's complete silent.
Yeah.
When there's no backing music, there's a synth track underneath it. Yeah, just the backing track. It's if no one's playing an instrument, there's no sound.
Yeah.
And so when they're playing and it's all coming together, you're going, and it's off the charts. And I hope that the gaming, like specific gaming game concerts, are going to continue to grow, and hopefully become more and more popular, is, I think, going to be down a very large amount to Claire Obscure.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because did they play anything from that?
They didn't. No, because I don't think it's won anything yet. Not for the BAFTAs this coming year, anyway, but I'm sure it'll be nominated. Funnily enough, I'll come back to Claire Obscure.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.